being established, this open, welcoming space of awareness. We're relaxing into that. And as we do that, just picking up the quality of openness, the quality of breath, the quality of spaciousness and expansiveness around experience. So rather than relating to every moment as a moment of experience, we're relating to every moment as a moment of awareness, a moment of being present. And as we pick up those qualities of presence, of awareness, of spaciousness, we're relaxing into those qualities, into that space, into that presence. Okay, that's just a little arrival exercise, picking up the quality of breadth of awareness. And it's as a way into my theme for this evening, which is focus and breadth. Yeah? So many of us have a relationship with meditation that's foregrounding focus. It's sort of meditation as a concentration exercise, as an attentiveness exercise, as a maintenance of focus. And my theme for this evening is to say yes and breadth, focus and breadth. So I'm going to just explore that theme for a while, focus and breadth. So I want to do that again with another little exercise, which is, it's not particularly a meditation exercise this time, it's just exploring your visual sense perception. So with vision, we have a visual center. Yeah? There's a point in the visual field, which is where we're looking, which is what we're looking at. And then we have a peripheral vision. So all the space around that visual center is peripheral, sort of from close to the center all the way out to the edge. And that's very analogous to the quality of attention. So when we're meditating, we've probably got our eyes closed, so it's not principally a visual perception experience, but there's a sort of equivalent, there's an analogy. So attention has its chosen focus. You know, we choose to center our attention, say for example, on the breath at the tip of the nose. That might be our choice. just to say, in the first half of this evening before tea break, I'm going to be mainly having in mind the mindfulness of breathing as a context. And in the second half, I'm going to look more at the Metta Bhavana. Okay, so visual sense experience. We've got this visual center, we've got this peripheral vision. Just as in meditation, we've got a center of attention, which is our focus, and we've got a broad awareness, which is akin to like the peripheral vision. It's kind of open space of awareness. So I'd like to invite you to try this as a little exercise. So first off, choose something to center your attention on. So something that's got a little bit of pattern or structure to it, not just the middle of a blank wall. Something you can, like a reference, you can center your attention on. Okay, and having chosen that, and when you first start to focus your attention just on the visual center, just on the particular visual experience right in the middle of your awareness, just bring your focus of attention to that. Okay. And now, without actually moving your eyes to look at anything else, I want you to open the attention to include the whole visual field. Yeah? The whole visual field with no particular emphasis on the center or anywhere else. And as you're doing that, have this relationship with your visual sense experience that's one of seeing rather than looking at. Yeah? So you're not particularly looking at anything specific, but you're just seeing whatever is apparent. Whatever presents itself, you're kind of aware of that, but you're not looking at anything in particular. And then finally, try finding a sort of balance between the two. So this is like, you're still open to whatever visual sense impressions are impinging. And you've got a little bit of focus on this particular visual object in the center. See if you can get a sense of balance between the two of them. Okay, and bringing that exercise to a close. So I'm interested if anyone would like to say if you, how that was. Did you get a sense of the difference? Did you get a sense of being able to balance the two? Mind projecting.
So when we were doing the first exercise and focusing, I was looking at the P of the Puja book anyway. So it felt like the periphery was kind of in the middle. It was leaking in the middle. So it was very narrow. Mm-hmm. And then when we shifted to the second exercise, the second part, consciously bringing in the periphery vision, there were things that were coming in that I wasn't at all aware of before. So okay. It really expanded out to the people. Mm-hmm. It was really quite wide. Mm-hmm. And it did feel like there was a bit of a dance. It was still this kind of wanting to ping in, focus, and then coming back out. Coming back out. But it was just a breadth of awareness that wasn't available when I was consciously doing the first one, focus one, you know? Okay,
yeah. So you're noticing the way things were excluded until you brought that balance in, yeah. And so you used the word narrow and wide and dance. I'm just wondering if there's a sort of preference between any of those. Is there a sort of Was there a feeling of narrowness, a feeling of wideness, a feeling of dance? Was it just an observation? Just an intro?
Yeah, so when we did the meditation as well at the start, I do have a sense of ease that comes with having a wider flow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a sense of ease that
Yeah.
comes with having a breath.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what's talking
And
about.
when things shift and move, there's something not reassuring. There's something true about that. Noticing that dance, that
Okay.
the breath comes, it's still moving.
Okay,
It's
when
not-
you say
it's not
moving, it's what sense?
kind of narrow, slightly narrow, slightly wider, slightly narrow.
Oh, I
So
see, yeah.
the breath is still there. It's not as
Yeah.
narrow as the first exercise, but it's still a shift.
So
That's
in
what I
that
mean by
balance,
dance.
there's a sort of dance, yeah.
Movement.
Movement, yeah. Okay, does remind me of Sylvia used to describe standing as a small dance. Yeah. You never quite stand still, there's always a slight dance of adjustment. So balance is a dance, it's not as static. Yeah, great. Why don't you, Tony, if I could request a glass of water? Right. Okay. So there's a couple of good points there, which I'll draw out some more. And I want to do that by introducing a picture of something that's called a polarity map. So anybody heard of polarity maps before? No, nobody. Well, they're out of fashion. So this is focus and work. Focus, breath, and there's a sort of figure of 8. Yeah, the arrows aren't very big. I'll draw them in a bit more. There's an arrow. So a couple of things about polarity maps. It's not that one's good and one's bad. They can both be good. They both have their downsides. It's not either that there's a perfect point of balance in between the two that's got an exactly equal amount of both. And polarity maps aren't really like that. So what is it then? Well, it's more, you see this sort of line around the outside, it's got a sort of an arrow direction around it. Well, each of these qualities, focus and breadth, has a sort of positive and upside, and it has a sort of shadow side, downside. So with focus can be tight, it can be narrow, it can be forced, it can be willful. None of those things are pleasant. None of those things are something that we want in meditation. It can, alternatively, be very fine, very specific, very discriminating, and very particular. So the particular, but it's that there, a Buddha figure that I focus on myself. One of his phrases is, my view is as wide as the open blue sky, and my conduct as fine as graded flower. So if you imagine a very fine graded flower. Fine, discriminating, particular. So in terms of breadth, so breadth can be very open, very expansive, very spacious, all of which is very supportive for our meditation practice. Alternatively, it could be rather loose, drifting, vague, wandering, directionless, that sense of sort of just being lost without any sort of guide star, without any reference. So, if you're anywhere along the top, then that's great. You don't need to sort of think in terms of balancing your experience out with anything else if you just do one of these or the other of those. What the polarities map's telling you is that if you're in one of these downsides, the thing to do is to cultivate the other pole. So if your experience is tight, narrow, forced, willful. Open up, yeah? Broaden out, lighten off on your focus and sort of just bring in this quality of broad peripheral awareness, more open, expansive relationship to experience. Breaths, free breaths. If you find that you've kind of lost the plot, you're just kind of wandering, drifting, loose, vague, I've lost an idea of what you're doing or where your focus is, then bring in more focus. Sort of, in context of mindfulness breathing, it's maybe kind of choosing a particular center of attention. So maybe you're going to choose that point where the air first enters the nose and becomes the breath. That's your center of attention. And you can bring more of your attention onto that focus. And that will give you more reference, more steadiness. It'll sort of, it's the way out of being lost in meditation. Okay. So that's one polarity, breadth and focus. I just want to compare it to another one. So this word's rather large, so I couldn't quite fit it into half the page. But concentrated and relaxed. Yeah, so I think just another polarity map, concentrated and relaxed. And it's kind of close to breadth and focus, but it's not quite the same thing. So concentrated can be rather hard, can be rather tight, can be rather willful, just as focus can. If that's happening, then relax. You're sort of probably relaxing into a broader awareness, into a more open, spacious, natural. So relax goes with sort of natural. Sometimes what we're looking for in mindfulness is called uncontrived mindfulness, unfabricated, just simply naturally present as it is. And the way into that gradually is you might have been kind of concentrating in the sense of relating to the mindfulness of breathing as a practice of choosing a center of attention and deciding, making the intention to attend to it. Yeah? So you're attending to a particular center of attention. So there's this intention to pay attention, which is focus. So that's an aspect of the practice. It's intentional aspect to pay attention to one point of awareness, one point of focus. So if that's getting kind of tight, then we want to relax around it. And you may have picked up already from last week and the beginning of this week that throughout meditation practice, there's a sort of twofold movement of establishing and then relaxing into. So you may well begin the mindfulness of breathing by establishing the center of your attention on this physical experience of the body breathing, and then relaxing into that. So just that relaxing into may well be enough to soften up the hardness, lighten up the willfulness, open up the tightness, might be enough. So if you're really enjoying, just getting into the open, spacious, relaxed quality, letting go of any particular effort you might have been making, after a while, you might find you're getting rather vague, rather directionless, rather sleepy, maybe. Okay, well, if that's happening, you need to bring some more concentration in. Concentrate a bit more. So choose a point of concentration and bring in this quality of one-pointedness, so that your attention is centered and one-pointed on this particular central point of experience. And then as you relax into that centered attention, you're looking for a continuity. the continuity of attention. So that's my second polarity map. I think it's quite clear really that there's a close relationship between focus and breath and concentration and relaxation, but then they're not quite the same thing. One other thing I want to just drop in for those of you who are more familiar with the qualities that gradually build and accumulate as you settle into a more absorbed state of meditation. So these are called dhyana factors, and there's a usual list, but I'm just going to talk about two that aren't on the usual list because they're sort of related to this. So one's called kamana. So kama means work. It also means it's like ethical action, but it means work as well. So kamana actually means workable or pliable, or yeah. So if you imagine a sort of really well-seasoned piece of wood that a carpenter could work with, it's something you can kind of engage with. It's workable. So a workable, pliable state of mind has this sort of relaxed, well, it's akin to a sort of relaxed quality. And along with that, there's a quality that's called samahita. So sama means equal. But in this context, samahita means steady. So samahita is steady, well-founded, stable, but not rigid. Not rigid. Yeah? So you're steady, but you're not stiff. Yeah? And kamana, you're sort of pliant, workable. You could say flexible, but not floppy. It's, yeah. So just as in meditation, when you relax into the practice, you're not flopping away. Yeah, you're not flopping to the side. When you relax into your posture, you're relaxing into the balance. You're not slumping. When you relax into your center of attention, you're still attentive. Yeah? You're not falling away from it. So kamana has got this pliancy, workability, but it's not flopping. And samahita has got this steadiness, foundation, groundedness, but it's not stiff. Okay. So before we go on to exploring that the meditation exercise, any observations or questions or thoughts around that? Yeah, it's Mark, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Could you say a bit more to distinguish first polarity diagram from the second?
Oh, first and second. Distinguish. Well, that's quite simple. Don't narrow force rules or hard work. Focus and concentration. Okay, distinction the two. We sort of have a focus of attention, and it may be constant and steady, or it might wander, but it's kind of just descriptive of an aspect of our experience at any one time. It's going to have a particular, like visually, we've got a visual center. Yeah. We might not be paying any attention to it, but nonetheless, there is a visual center. So it's a bit similar with focus. It's like there's going to be a center to our attention. And that might have wandered off, but it will be somewhere. Concentration, I think, of more as the faculty or facility for staying with practice. That's all that comes to mind at the moment. Let's say, well, on the upside, find specific, discriminating, particular focus. One-pointed continuity of attention, concentrated. I suppose the only other thing to say is concentration. You can have a very open center of attention and still be concentrated. So it might just be a case of being present, being in your present experience, without choosing any specific center. But that quality of being here now, to quote the 60s guru, and that quality of being present might be the center of your concentration. In the descriptions of the dhyanas, there's always a base of the dhyana. The dhyana is a level of concentration. It always has a base, but they get increasingly subtle. You couldn't really say it's a focus. So, for example, if the base of your concentration is a sense of infinite spaciousness, so you couldn't really say you're focusing on that. Oh,
I was just wondering, staying with Mark's question, whether you could correspond to Vichara and Vichara. You've got focus, like initial thought and the ability to stay with that.
Yeah, so two of the more familiar, two of the familiar list of factors of concentration, factors are vitarka and vichara, and they're often translated as initial thought and sustained thought. So thinking of and thinking about. So you saying, well, can I think of focus as thinking of, and relaxation is thinking about?
Well, concentration is
the concentration is this concentration is both. Concentration is a state of absorption, which includes, initially at least, it includes both thinking of and thinking about. Sometimes they're also translated as initial attention and sustained attention. That is actually quite a different thing. In particular, you'll find as you develop states of absorption and concentration, the thinking will quieten down. So you can relate to deepening into meditation as a process of quietening. The first thing we do is we go from a noisy environment on Gloucester Road and come into a nice quiet environment like this, and we sit in silence, we're not chatting, so there's silence. And then you may find initially there's a lot of thinking going on, thinking about sorts of things. And then gradually that will still, that will quieten, and it can just become very quiet and very still. But you're still attending. Yeah. So initial attention and sustained attention is there all the way down, I think. Okay. Maybe I'm drifting off your point, Maribel.
Yeah, I think I was thinking, with the breath and concentration as the factor, but more like in that sense of attention rather than thought. You find focus, and then you just stay in it.
Yes, for myself, I think both initial attention and sustained attention are focus. So in the vitarka, the initial attention is that agility of the mind, the capacity we have to just bring to mind, to actually can become quite mercurial in a way. It can be really possible to actually pick up an experience and kind of clock it as if from a number of angles, and that's kind of bring to mind. And then this bearing in mind, sustained attention, as more like a sort of continuity. Yeah, so I think I've got continuity of attention. So I think this is all in the focus concentration side.
You have to look at it sort of, just in the nuts and bolts and practicality of it. So say you're doing it with the breath. So the focus is like choosing to notice your breath. Concentration is staying with the breath. And then when you bringing the focus in, when you kind of go off the breath. And so I'm just thinking on an actual practical level, when you're sitting there, try and just keep your mind on your breath. There's the initial thought is, I'm paying attention to the breath. Then the concentration is staying with it.
Yeah, so there's a natural, move. You bring something to mind and then you bear it in mind.
Yeah.
There is also the sort of ongoing mercurial agility of awareness, which is vitakka, and the ongoing capacity for continuity of purpose, for sustained attention.
So every time you go off, and then focus is coming back to.
Yeah, the coming back to all vitakka. Yeah. So there's quite a few words involved here, and there's quite a few things to get a feel for in your experience. I think a lot of the art of learning to meditate is to make the connections between all of these ideas or words and your own actual experience. So let's have a go at an exercise, just exploring focus and breath. We'll do a short one on focus, and then we can talk about that a bit. And then so establishing your preferred meditation posture. Just putting it in place and then relaxing into it, into the balance, into the stability. And now choosing one particular sense experience to center the attention on. So you might choose a point where the air first enters the nose. That's the breath. And we start by bringing a very fine, specific, discriminating awareness to this point of experience. And taking an interest in the detail of it. And once that's established, we're relaxing into that focus. So we have a centered attention, we're relaxing into that centered attention. Seeing if it's possible to continue to be fine, specific, particular in our attention, whilst also being relaxed, soft. And just continue to sort of look for this balance for another minute. And then coming slowly, gradually out of the practice. Okay, so what I'd like to suggest next is it's all an invitation. The invitation is to pair up, to talk about what your experience of that was, whether you were able to get a sense of this in your experience or whether it didn't fit your experience. Yeah, so over the next few minutes. So as I say, it's an invitation, so if you don't wish to, then no problem. But if you wish to, then find a pair and I'll ring a bell after a few minutes.
Hi all, would you all be happy to go into pairs for a few minutes? Yeah, okay.
Do with us.
into the balance, into the stability, falling out. Bringing our attention into the body as a lived sensation. And then relaxing into this embodied presence. Now also, with that still there, opening to sounds. And just hearing whatever is audible without listening to anything in particular. It's just an openness to sounds arising, sounds fading. And noticing the quality of openness in the attention. So the attention has this very open center to it. Noticing the quality of openness in the awareness. So that the awareness has this abiding presence that's simply here. And as you notice this quality of openness, relaxing into it. So everything's included in the breadth of awareness. You may also notice the intention to open into breadth in this way. Any sense of deliberateness or choice or direction. And if you notice anything of that sort, allowing that to be present in the breadth of awareness. Maybe there's a sense of doing this practice in some sort of active or deliberate way. And if you find a sense of that, just allowing that sense to be present in the breadth of awareness. And for just one more minute, continuing in this way, whatever becomes apparent has its place in the open, spacious breadth of awareness. Gradually out of that practice. We'll have a tea break now, which is an opportunity to use as you wish. One way in which you might choose to use it is to find someone to talk to about what your experience of breath was in that exercise. And we'll start again at 5 to 9.
Hello everyone. I'm just going to go and get myself a cup of tea. But if you'd like to.
So it strikes me that the focus has a quality of closeness, being very close to a very particular sensation. So it's got a quality of closeness, and in metaphor terms, in emotional terms, more of an intimacy, being intimate with your experience. Yeah? And Metta has this quality of intimacy, closeness. Yeah? So in a way, that's kind of, it also goes with this quality of openness that we were drawing out last week. So to be open is to be undefended, is to be prepared to be close, So, okay, so sitting loosely to whether or not we use the word focus. So in a way, it's akin to focus. I'm not saying it is focus, but there's a quality of closeness and intimacy, which has also flavors perhaps of tenderness. It's very individual and particular. You know, when you're very close to someone, you're close to them. You know, it's very particular sense of connection and relationship. You know. So this is kind of certainly present in all of the first 4 stages, I'd say. So the first stage, an aspect of the first stage of Metta Bhavana is being open to your experience, being prepared to be intimate to your experience, to be sort of bringing this sort of quality of sensitivity and tenderness into your experience. And on one retreat I did with Vasantra, one of my favorite meditation teachers in the order, we drew in 2 particular Buddha and Bodhisattva figures as kind of expressions of these qualities. I'll come to the second one in a minute, but the first figure was Green Tara. So Green Tara, you'll have seen this beautiful large brass rupa, statue of Green Tara just outside. So green Tara, she's stepping down and she's reaching out. Yeah? So she's kind of making that connection. So there's always a sort of quality of availability and connection and reaching out towards in green Tara. And those are aspects of metta, that quality of being open to someone else, reaching out to them, being an openness to connection, to relationship, to intimacy, to tenderness, to sensitivity. And something I remember a friend of mine, Dajoti, in the Sangha here in Bristol, saying that one thing, this bringing in this sort of imaginal quality, so bringing in a sense of green Tara in this case. One thing that can do for us, these sort of images or symbols of Buddhism Bodhisattvas, they can hold for us the real deal, the real experience. Sometimes we talk in terms of near enemies. So the near enemy of metta would be something that's a bit stickier, a bit more attached. But then there's metta itself, which is the real thing, completely free of any sentimentality, any particular attachment, any stickiness at all. It's just very genuine. And these Buddha and Bodhisattva figures can really hold, in a very symbolic way, that quality of real metta, completely free of any bias, of any attachment, of any contingency. So it's said to, in the Karaniya Metta, it's said to be like a mother's love for her child, her only child, but now unbounded. It's as intimate and sensitive and tender as a mother's love for her only child, but it's not just for one person. It's not just for the one child of yourself. It's unbounded, but now unbounded. It's completely open. So that's a little about parallel for focus in the Metta Bhavana, the sort of quality of closeness, tenderness, intimacy, sensitivity. Okay, so how about breath? Well, I think this is more related to the last stage of the Metta Bhavana. I remember when I first learned the Metta Bhavana, I used to sort of practice the last stage as sort of adding more and more people, and it got very crowded, as you can imagine. And I got to get a bit of a headache really trying to imagine so many people at the same time. And now I don't think of it as an adding practice anymore. I'm not sort of trying to add figures in. I'm just sort of letting go of boundaries, letting go of limitations. So it's more of a move into a quality of awareness which is open and spacious and expansive. So this is, the quality of breath that we've been drawing on in the first half, but also kind of radiant and still sensitive, still emotionally available. So the quality of metta in the last stage is one of metta radiating to all directions. And if you read the earliest accounts of how the Buddha was teaching the Metta Bhavana, this was it. He didn't do stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. He started with stage 5. You just sit down at the foot of a tree in the forest, and you radiate metta to all the directions. Traditionally, there are 10 directions, which are north, south, east, west. The 4, northeast, southeast, and so on, and above and below. 10 directions. So radiant, unconditioned in the sense of so metta is not looking for any return. It's not, I'll feel close to you so long as you make me feel happy in whatever way. It's not conditional. So I think there's a natural way into that from this quality of breath, which is open, expansive, spacious. It's spacious, but it's not physical space. It's in the mind. It's what's called akasha. It's the space of the mind, and the space of the mind is permeated by this quality of presence and this quality of sensitivity. So we experience what we experience because we're sensitive to it. And so if you can just relax into this wide open space with this quality of kind of this tangible sensitivity to it, and it feels like there's a natural sort of route from there into something that's got this quality of metta to it as well, sort of emotional positivity and openness to others and to life. And the figure that Vasantra was using on this retreat as a sort of focus for this quality was the Buddha Amitabha. So Buddha Amitabha is the Buddha of infinite love and the Buddha of infinite light. He's bright red, but a sort of colour of the open emotional warmth and so on. Okay, Amitabha. Okay, so those are my two kind of parallels that I'm drawing to sort of connect this theme of focusing breath to the Metta Bhavana. And I thought I'd go on to just sort of lead a short exercise in that. But before we do that, any thoughts, comments, observations? There's a chance. Okay. Okay, so let's do this then. So settling in again to your meditation posture, and particularly picking up the quality of openness and undefendedness in your posture. And once you've picked up that quality, relaxing into it. Relaxing into an attitude of complete welcoming of whatever arises in your experience. So there's an openness to sense experience, and there's an openness to the heart. There's an openness to the realm of emotions, whatever they may be. So we're not trying to have any one particular experience and to eradicate any other experience. We're just welcoming in whatever experience is apparent. Even if there are a crowd of sorrows, welcoming each one. This attitude of complete allowance, completely free of conflict. It's just allowing, welcoming. And as we do that, we're noticing this quality of openness, spaciousness, expansiveness. And it's a sensitive space. It's a living space. Has this quality of metta to it. So having practiced metta bhavana for a while, maybe you can just recognize that quality of metta and the way it just diffuses to fill the whole space. Open, sensitive, welcoming space of awareness. And there's this relaxing into this open space of metta from which we can just be with whatever experience arises. And in that space, we might find that there's something particular that has a demand upon our attention, something on our mind. Maybe it's a purely personal experience, or maybe it's a relationship, quality of relationship. So whichever that is bringing this quality of sensitivity, particularly into relationship with anything that's particularly calling our attention, and giving it our attention. With a quality of closeness, of intimacy, of tenderness. So maybe this is a relationship that's on our mind. Or maybe it's a purely personal experience. Either way, really being prepared to be with what's calling our attention, to really give it generously of our attention. With the sensitivity of awareness. And that quality of closeness and intimacy. And so we're reaching out to it. And Tara reaches a hand out towards us. Okay, so again, there's this invitation to pair up and talk about your experience if you wish to do so. If you prefer to just remain still and inward with your own experience, that's fine. But if you wish, there's an opportunity to share your experience, see if you can connect those qualities of closeness, intimacy on one hand, and an openness, expansive spaciousness on the other. Okay, and so now wants to that's fine, is that?
Prajnamati, how long are you doing this exercise?
Oh, for about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Yeah, I guess we had more staying.
Yeah.
I guess slightly confused. I think it was the kind of the religious ones too. I feel like when I have that. When I was oh, I was just getting out, but always focused on the actions. Yeah, I was struggling to kind of settle. I'd already like, great way of putting it. I was really set it down. But like just the
Yeah, it's interesting that I was trying to bring the discriminate what requisite personal, emotional, the rest is not just something that you're that makes
Okay, I'm going to set the groups up again. I'm going to put you back. I didn't know it was 10 minutes till just now.
Closing comments, questions, observations? If you will. Okay. But I could always repeat a question if you want to put it in there. I'm interested in how, I suppose how much sense that made to draw this parallel between focus and breath as a more obvious application to the mindfulness practice. Yeah, and then here's
I sort of missed where it changed.
where it changed.
Just wandering for a couple of minutes. Focusing in, to expanding out.
I think
Yes, that was probably me not being very
Prajnamati
clear.
is leading us to the next bit now, I think.
Sort of going in very broad
right.
and then picking up something more particular. Whereas in the first half, I had been talking more in terms of establishing focus first and then relaxing around that.
And on the first half, I definitely until I'd done the two, that then made sense of everything. When I've done meditation on the two, focusing in.
The focus on the breath, yeah, okay.
I definitely noticed a big difference there.
Right.
And then that made sense of all the graphs.
It made sense of all these polarity maps and so on. Yeah.
Before, I used to
Right, yeah. Yeah, having a sense of what both sides are talking about, yeah, yeah. So does this sort of second half looking at Metta Bhavana in a related but not using the same language sort of way, is that where does
it
it?
feels like Metta's like that anyway, that you sort of focus in and then expand down.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. You start with yourself, you start with a very particular relationship, and then over the, well, certainly in the fifth stage, you're expanding out. And yeah, it's got that. It's got that content. Yeah. 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 Okay. Any other thoughts? No problem if not. Okay. Okay, so I thought we could close with the transference of merits, which I can read in call and response. And do recall as we finish, there's this open invitation if you wish to join a smaller group to continue looking at these sort of approaches to meditation about another 8 weeks or so. Give you a sort of toolkit. Sure.
Can you just clarify how we register our interest?
Oh yeah, so do send an email to the centre, to info@bristolcentre.com. You can also send an email to me or copy it into me, and I'll let you have my email address. So maybe you can just write prajnamati@gmail.com into the chat for those online.
You haven't got any dates in mind yet?
Well, yet soon, but we haven't got a starting date. Okay, so for those with picture book, we're looking at page 27. And we'll do this in call and response. May the merit gained
may the merit gained
in my acting thus
in my acting thus
go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
My personality throughout my existences.
My personality throughout my existences.
My possessions.
My possessions.
And my merit in all three ways.
And my merit in all three ways.
I give up without regard to myself.
I give up without regard to myself.
For the benefit of all beings.
For the benefit of all beings.
Just as the earth and other elements.
Just as the earth and other elements.
Are serviceable in many ways.
Are serviceable in many ways.
To the infinite number of beings.
To the infinite number of beings.
Inhabiting limitless space.
Inhabiting limitless space.
So may I become.
So may I become.
That which maintains all beings.
That which maintains all beings.
Situated throughout space.
Situated throughout space.
So long as all have not attained.
So long as all have not attained.
To peace.
To peace.
Okay. Concludes our evening. So thank you all for coming.